All right, hey viewers. Um, I'm going to talk today about hunting ethics because I plan on uploading some hunting videos later this year. Um, so I'm going to start out by saying there's a lot of misconceptions about hunting. So, first of all, as human beings, we are literally the pinnacle of hunters on planet Earth. I mean, this is anthropologically correct and scientifically accurate that humans were hunters. That we use tools, and we are the apex predator on planet Earth. As a matter of fact, we are the most apex predator known, period, in existence. So when people say, "Oh, I'm not a hunter," or "I don't like hunting," I mean, you are a hunter. You're like a lion in the zoo. Um, just because the lion's in the zoo and doesn't hunt doesn't mean it's not a hunter. Like you are a hunter. We are hunters. We hunted um, mammoths to extinction. I'm not suggesting that's what we do. I'm suggesting historically, scientifically, we are for sure 100% hunters, and the best hunter that is known. Period. Um, so back to the ethics of it. So I'm going to start. Obviously, the mammoth is a good example because we're not going to. I'm not here to advocate hunting anything to extinction. Quite the contrary. So the state, particularly the state of New Jersey, where I am, obviously we can't build houses and completely demolish wildlife habitats. I mean, we could. It would be foolish. Um, so there's an interest in keeping wildlife populations healthy. The state recognizes that. So they have things called wildlife management areas. We have state parks. We have national parks or federal parks, federal wildlife management areas. So the state takes very seriously keeping these populations healthy, and for good reason. A bunch of people would be upset if we just started demolishing, the ecology and other animals. So back to hunting. How does this relate to hunting? So if you have these wildlife management areas, you have these places that are set aside for the wildlife to procreate. Uh, what happens when the populations get out of control? You need some mechanism by which to control the populations that you're allowing to flourish. I mean, I guess the state of New Jersey could just introduce tigers into the ecosystem, but that's a little foolish. So they basically allow hunters to perform the task of culling the populations, these wild populations. And I guess you'd say, why is that necessary? Well, first of all, let's take deer for example. Not all animals are like this, but deer. In the state of New Jersey, deer are considered potentially dangerous. They're large, they're extremely athletic. The males, particularly during the rut, their mating season, will potentially attack you. They're testosterone fueled and kind of going nuts, and they have horns. They're these large animals, like the size of like a donkey, with horns, and that's very dangerous. The females, the largest female in a little group, will protect the other females. They stand on their hind legs. They'll kick. They'll stomp. They'll kind of jump and stomp on you. You can look up videos kind of comically about deers attacking hunters, which happens. So they're potentially dangerous. So there's an interest in culling the population for just a general safety. These animals are potentially dangerous, but also for just practical reasons. You can't have deer all over the place. We have highways that's dangerous. You can't have them just roaming around in the neighborhoods. Particularly small kids. So there's this balance between having wildlife that we don't want to demolish and have extinct, and at the same time culling the population so that they remain at a healthy level so that they don't threaten humans. So that's the general idea. As a matter of fact, hunters that pay to be licensed, they pay all these fees and for the permits, and all that money goes to these wildlife management areas. So it's a cyclical cyclical concept where the state makes sure the wildlife stays healthy, but they need somebody to cull the population, and they allow hunters the chance to do that. We pay for that opportunity. The state gets the benefit of us culling the population. The state also makes sure by issuing the permits that we don't totally eradicate the wildlife, which is important. So in essence, the hunters are the ones that are financing the safety of these animal populations. So I'm hoping that clears up a little bit of the confusion. I mean, the hunters obviously get the benefit of we get to keep the meat, right? So venison, I think, is pretty good. So I pay money. I go to these wildlife management areas the state runs, and they give me a permit, and I use my permit, and I take a deer, which helps the state of New Jersey cull the population, and I get the deer meat. That's kind of how this system works. So it's not about just being a killer. A lot of hunters out there do give hunters a bad name by indiscriminately killing, or they're more like, I guess you would call them tourists, ones that pay just to go around and hunt, and they're not really the hunters. They pay a hunter to take them, and they pull the trigger. They don't even want the meat. That's not a hunter. Hunting ethics, which is basically what I'm describing, this idea of keeping the population healthy and taking only what you need to take. We need to take. That's an important point that I just made. It's important. I lost my train of thought. Okay, so circling back to the ethics generally. So a lot of hunters want to use the whole animal. They don't, obviously, you want clean kills. You don't want the animal to suffer. You want a good shot, a clean kill. There's ways of doing that depending on the animals you're hunting. You want to use everything. You will even make bone marrow. You kind of cut the bones up and make bone marrow. You bake it. So these ethics go way back. These are like Native American ethics that talk about, taking only what you need and letting the population be healthy. This is why, by the way, when they talk about big buck hunting, you want to kill the biggest buck, usually because it's had its chance to procreate. It keeps the populations healthy. Circling to Christianity, talking about morals and ethics. Going way back to Noah and the flood. After the flood, there was a rainbow, and Noah and God made called the covenant of the rainbow. And without getting into specifics, basically God granted humans the right to live off of the land, farming, eating the plants, the animals, and the fish and the birds. That's all for us to eat. So from a Christian perspective, hunting is moral. I just gave you basically the economic morality of hunting, whether it's from a Native American viewpoint or the state of New Jersey viewpoint. They're one and the same. You want to keep the population healthy and take only what you need in order to keep the people safe and the population's healthy. And circling back all the way to, we are the apex predator. So I hope I've cleared some of the ethical considerations up for you. If you have any comments, leave them below. Thanks.